Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and welcome to Friday. It is finally here. I'll be on for a while. We'll see. I'm going to be joined with Jason Walker. He runs the Colorado division of Patriot Trading Group. He's going to be joining me. Got a remodel going on. We had painting here at the Phoenix office a few weeks ago. Today it's the floors. Whenever they show up will be when I'll jump off. But we got the anywhere from 9 to noon. People are going to make an appearance. It's almost like cable now, right? We'll be there sometime. But we'll close down when that happens. We will forward our phones, so Arlene will be answering the phones. But we won't be here. Arlene physically won't be here. So if you're looking for tracking numbers or anything like that, we won't be able to provide those to you till Monday. But if you want to place orders, you can still place orders. Obviously, you can always go out to allamericangold.com, hit the shop button, and order your products online that way as well. You can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are working with Kitco. There's an issue with the link, so the spot price isn't updating. Matter of fact, it hasn't updated for, I want to say, since Monday, maybe even Sunday. Gold's up again. Gold's up about another $14 or $15. Right at $17.80. Silver's up as well. Silver's up another 15, 16 cents here, $26.12. And the Dow is up 90. The Nasdaq's down just a little bit today. Everybody just trying to digest what's going to happen. We had big news out of China. We're going to talk to. Matter of fact, I'm going to hit Jason with this and get his reaction. He doesn't know it yet. But a major announcement coming out of China in regards to its digital currency in gold. So we'll talk about that in the next segment. Don't forget our CBD products. I don't need to tell you how great they are. They're the best of the best, and it's wonderful as the longer this goes, and we're seeing all of these people that are trying the products, loving the products, reordering the products, new customers trying the products. They're going to be reordering the products. We're going to continue to add to those at the 1360 KHNC, the shop button. No gathering today at the station. We've been doing the Friday gatherings. That we will do that again next Friday, so look forward to that. David Knight is going to be live on 1360 KHNC. He'll be on the hour before this show. From 9 to 10 Colorado time, 8 to 9 Arizona time. And this is exclusive. This is not his podcast. We are the only radio station in the country that will be carrying David Knight. For those of you that don't remember David Knight or don't know the name, David Knight used to be Alex Jones' right-hand man. I would call him the more of the factual, less, I don't know what the right word, a little less dramatic version of Alex. They had a falling out, and I'll tell you right now, it had to really do with Trump. And David was concerned. Obviously Alex was 1,000% in the Trump boat. David Knight kind of thought, hey, he's just like all the other D's and R's, just with a different, a little bit different spin to it all. But he'll be joining us starting May 3rd. So the first Monday in May, we'll get to him. So kind of a weird day. The office is empty. Everything's boxed up and moved out. And Brittany was in this morning. She was doing the metals plans, and we've got all the supplies are boxed up. Everything's boxed up. And the credit card machine ran out of paper. And we went in the back. We looked through all these boxes, couldn't find it, had to go upstairs. Finally, and isn't it always this way? The very last box we look in, we ended up finding it. So we were able to get it done. That was that was the big crisis for the day. But all the people on the metals plans got billed today, and again, everything's out on the metals plans, and they've been out for a while. So if by Monday you haven't received your metals plan shipment, call us. Okay, call us, because my guess is it's probably sitting at your post office, and they didn't leave you a note, they didn't do any of that stuff. So if you didn't get your metals plans by Monday, call us, and we'll give you tracking numbers and all that stuff, and get those products in your hands. But Jason, are you with us?
Yeah, I had to leave just for a minute. I got 4 boxes of goodies that just walked in the door, so we got all that stuff coming in. So, yeah, right.
Is that the stuff I sent you?
And I think more. So there's 4 boxes, so I got a lot of stuff. So I'll be making phone calls after the show.
There you go. So product landed in Colorado. I will tell you this. I dumped a bunch of stuff on you, Jason.
Okay.
I didn't even tell you it was coming. I'm just going to have you deal with it.
It might not be the gold I was waiting for then. We'll see. I need to open it up. It's Christmas. I got to see what's in it.
It's Christmas. There you go. I like your attitude. Just look at it as Christmas. I heard you guys got snow up there.
Yeah, I got several inches, but it's April, so the streets and the sidewalks are all melted, but it is hovering below freezing at 30 degrees, and it's snow in April. We get quite a bit here in Colorado.
Yeah, wait 5 minutes. It'll be about 65 or 70 there pretty quick. Listen, when we get back, what are the Chinese up to? You're not going to want to miss. I can't believe it. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. And some really interesting developments are happening. Think back just a couple of weeks ago. The IMF said, hey, the global share of U.S. dollar-denominated exchange reserves, right? This is when countries and corporations take their excess capital and they buy bonds. And they've got their choice, right? They can buy U.S.-denominated bonds, European, Chinese, Japanese, you name it. Fell below 60% to 59%. This is the lowest since the creation of the euro. Right, so you think about the euro now, it's like, 27 countries, I think now, maybe 30. And so all of them go into one bucket now. So you can, you could understand that. But here's the funny part is we're within about 9%, 10% of all-time record lows for the use of the dollar. And then, of course, we've got all the deficits, right? Inflation is getting ready to hit here. Our central bankers are totally asleep at the wheel. All as they know how to do is print more money. That's their solution to every problem we ever have had. Right? Think about it. Think about any problem. I'll print more money. That's always their answer. And now the printing of that money coming home to roost. And then last week, so 2 weeks ago, we fall below 60%. Last week, China becomes the first major economy to go digital with its central bank digital currency, right? And of course that makes sense, right? The first country ever, the first nation ever to use fiat money was China. They were the first. A lot of people don't know that. They were absolutely the first country to use fiat currency. And of course it does what all fiat currencies do, go to zero. I didn't talk about this last week, and I probably should have. A lot of I'll say a lot of billionaires are starting to do the opposite. We know about Mark Cuban and Elon Musk and what I'll call the Bitcoin cheerleaders. A lot of other guys, maybe guys you don't hear of because they don't like to be out in the media, if you will. We're saying that, hey, we're watching this Bitcoin underneath the pretty headlines and all that other stuff, and when you really look at it, They're saying this is part of the financial weapon by the Chinese because it threatens fiat money. Right? And that's true. Listen, it's going to replace fiat money. It's just not going to be Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, they're either going to regulate it and turn it into some type of derivative, or what happened today, Turkey today banned all payments of Bitcoin, just banned them, right? And that's one of two things. That's one of two things going to happen. Either Bitcoin and all the other digital currencies get banned, as all these other countries follow China's suit, or they turn it into some kind of financial instrument. And it doesn't really matter one way or the other. It's going to be regulated heavily. But then Reuters today, very interesting, saying that China has given all of its domestic and international banks permission to import large amounts of gold into the country. Now listen, China's already the number one gold consumer in the world. They're the number one gold producer in the world. China does not export gold. So think about, they import about 1,000 metric tons. They mined about 400 metric tons. I think this year is probably going to go down to about 380 metric tons. And total mine supply is about 3,300 metric tons. And China's already at 1,300 of that. Throw India on top of that, and you only got about 1,000 metric tons left for the rest of the world. But today, Reuters says that the People's Bank of China, the nation's central bank, which controls how much gold enters China through a system of quotas given to commercial banks, right? So the Central Bank of China, they tell the banks how much gold they can import, right? And they give quotas. So they want to keep the price as low as possible because they're still accumulating it. But in recent weeks, it had given permission for large amounts of bullion to enter the country. We had no quotas whatsoever. And they said that we are now seeing the most gold enter China, around 150 tons, worth about $8.5 billion just in the last couple of weeks, getting ready to enter into China. And Reuters is speculating that the Chinese, Jason, may be getting ready to possibly back their digital renminbi with gold. What are your thoughts?
I don't think they'll do that. I'll go back to so you covered a whole lot there, so I'm going to go back to the beginning. The original information you said came from the IMF. As you reported several years ago, China was put prematurely into the currency basket, and China began buying the most gold and hoarding the most gold from then on out. And they also became the number one buyer of special drawing rights. I think China is positioning themselves to be the biggest player in the IMF, which may be the next central bank of the world. We'll say the dollar goes away, or the Federal Reserve becomes no longer the world trade currency. China will then have this massive amount of gold. They don't have to have all of it. They don't have to have half of it. They just have to have a huge amount. Then they're heavily leveraged in the IMF, the new central bank of the world. I could actually see a scenario, Joe, where in America, all the information about the Fed that we spew on the air all the time, suddenly the mainstream media saying about this evil, corrupt Federal Reserve and this evil history. You can see Congress say we're going to abolish the Fed, and then instead of just eliminate central bank, the word will be replace. What are we going to replace it with? I think they're going to replace it with the IMF. Now, you don't have to have a gold-backed currency then, Joe, but what China could easily do is they'll be so heavy in special drawing rights that they'll have a very controlling arm. And then when everybody flocks to gold, because this is going to be an emergency type event, and everyone's going to go buying gold, I think the price of gold goes very, very high. And then when China wants to, they flood the market with gold to cool it off after it starts spiking upward, and then have a very large control over the world economy through maybe an IMF central bank of the world, Joe. And I think this is why you got to get on gold and silver now, because these things are in motion. And every time, Joe, you have a source, I always ask when you have a source, Joe, what do they gain out of this? How does the IMF story benefit the IMF? And I think if they were the world central bank, that would be very big for them.
It's very interesting. That's why I love, and we got to have you on more, because you do this. You and Brian talk about this on your show every day, the Front Range News Hour in Colorado. But really interesting thoughts here, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Because we know, listen, inflation, it's going to eat us alive. They're sitting there, and it's so how they can sit there and say it's not happening and come up with these ridiculous numbers and all that stuff. And I like your thought of when this new digital currency comes. Maybe the Fed is the scapegoat.
Yep, I think so.
Right? It's their fault. Let's do something better. And by this time, talking about the IMF, the first thing Jason was talking about was the fact that the IMF and the rest of the world allowed for China's currency to become part of the basket. Even though, they had, think of it this way. Think of it as the old boys club, if you will. They set up these rules that really almost made it impossible for other countries to ever get to be a part of the club. And then all of a sudden, here comes China, and China basically bullies their way in and says, look, we're bigger than all of you. Let us in or else. So they changed the rules, let China's currency be part of the basket. The special drawing rights, look at it as this way, as global bonds. So instead of like U.S. treasuries, you would be buying a global bond that would have the diversification, for lack of a better term. It would have some U.S. stuff in it, some European stuff in it, some British stuff in it, some Japanese stuff in it, and of course, obviously the Chinese and all of that. And again, we talk about gold holdings, right? We claim to have 8,000 metric tons of gold. No one really knows. We want to believe that. I want to believe it anyway. The Chinese are only officially reporting a little over 2,000 metric tons of gold, and nobody believes that number, right? Everyone, and Jason can talk to this as well, everyone thinks they actually have a lot more. They just don't want to say it. And Jason, now, are you trying to say, hey, this latest move, when you talk about 150 metric tons in a matter of weeks, let's call it a month, right? That would be 1,800 metric tons in a year if they did it every month. That would be more than 50% of all the mine supply of gold in the world.
Yeah, it's moving. Everything's moving in a specific direction. And it looks like China is the choice of these rich guys all over the world. They want to move it to China. And if that's through the IMF, it doesn't really matter. The IMF is the same guys as the Fed. It's all these central banks, Chinese central bank. When they have their meetings, you see these Chinese guys sit there and have their minutes of the meetings and what they're going to do. But it's the same rich white family bankers, essentially. It's more than just that. But it's the same guys. It's the Bank of China, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank. So it doesn't matter. I mean, for the average person that doesn't know this, when we move the world exchange currency to another platform, it doesn't really matter to them. Those guys already know what's going to happen ahead. We're the ones that have to try to figure it out, Joe.
Well, and it's very interesting because if you follow the money, right, as Jason talks about, it's the same group of bankers. You follow the money, the inflows into China, foreign inflows of money. China now has jumped up to the second largest inflow nation. Of course, the United States is always, well, I shouldn't say always, but has been number one for decades. But China is now only $100 billion behind the U.S. in attracting foreign capital. It's studied the pace. Today, China announced its GDP. So we're getting ready to announce our first quarter GDP, and we're hearing numbers between 7 to 9% growth of GDP and all this stuff. And of course, we handed out $2,000 during the first quarter. China didn't hand out any money.
That's
18.3% GDP growth. Now, of course, China had the shutdown in the first quarter. Remember, China, COVID was big, January, February, March, and they had shut down the entire province, the Wuhan province, and all that stuff. But it's just the magnitude of how big China's become, Jason. I don't think a lot of people realize it.
Well, and we're going to hit the break here in a minute, but I've been watching this guy out of Australia. He's just a podcaster guy. He doesn't have a big show or anything. When we come back to the break, it's interesting how you said 7 to 9%, because I think inflation is going to be counted as growth. And this guy was talking about inflation, and he threw some generic numbers out, and I don't have time to do it right now, but you'll blow your mind, Joe, because obviously it's not going to happen the way this guy says it. But if you look at it, 2% increase in income for the he's just saying the average guy, and then he looked at the 0.6 that they reported for inflation for March, and he's like, well, that's 7.2% for the year. And then he did a 10-year span, what that would actually do to you if it actually just stayed that calm. And it's interesting, the numbers, Joe, when we get back.
Welcome back. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Joined today with Jason Walker. He runs our Colorado office. We're talking about the big news. Reuters reporting China has imported 150 metric tons of gold in the month of April. Remember, March, India imported 160 metric tons of gold. And then we're talking about what the ramifications of all of this are going to be. The people are here, so I'm going to step away. We're getting ready to get some floor work done here at the Patriot office. And Jason is going to carry you guys through the rest of the show. So take care. God bless everybody. Listen, and Jason, guy's got great takes on this. Pay attention to what he has to say about it. And Jason, I'll call you later.
That's great. No problem, Joe. So as we're hitting the break, I was talking about this guy I was watching. It's just, there's a lot of podcasters, there's a lot of guys with good prognostication because, we don't have all the facts. We don't run this thing. And he was running just a generic idea, which is the average guy he's making $4,000 a month, and he has $3,000 in expenses. And as he did like a 10-year span, so his wages, and this is being generous as far as I'm concerned with where we're at, wages going up 2% a year. So he's getting a little, he's getting a little bumps in pay every year. And he was going off of what's going on with inflation numbers from month to month since I think October, November, where it was going up 1%. And then it went to 0.1% for the month. Then it went to 0.2% for the month for a couple of months. I think it was December and January. And then in February, it went to 0.4 for the month. This is inflation getting higher per month. And then 0.6% for March. And he just ran the numbers. He's like, well, what if the inflation just sort of stopped and it just was increasing at 0.6, which is about 7% a year, 7.2% a year. He said in just a 10-year span that $4,000 in earnings would then be $4,885 per month by the end of the 10 years. So he's gotten a pay raise and he's got more money coming in. The expenses of $3,000, where you had an extra $1,000 to buy gold or invest in a company, those expenses in that same 10-year span was $6,150. Now you're in debt. You've done nothing different. You're earning a little more money per month, per year, and now you have no way of paying your bills. And this is what inflation does. It's theft. It doesn't have to happen. In this country, gold was backed our currency, the dollar, from the late 1700s to the early 1900s until they made gold illegal. We had no inflation. We had a fair, honest money system. And then in 1913, the Federal Reserve was passed in the dark of night during the Christmas holiday, in secrecy. And slowly but surely, the control over the interest rates and the printing of the currency has turned to what we're in today, which is everybody's in debt. And when you're in debt, you have to pay a piece to the gods that are the bankers, these guys that spin these webs to steal everything we got. And so I was looking at this guy's numbers. I was like, look at this inflation. So I don't know if I've said it to the Arizona, because I don't do the Arizona show very often, but I sold my house to actually buy into this thing. But as time went on, and I actually had some collectible coins. I was more than Joe doesn't do collectible coins, but I do collectible coins in my past, and I had held on to those. I was really wanting to see the future of those, but as I started seeing coronavirus in 2020 and what was getting ready to happen, and I saw this inflative cycle that's going to probably start, which it did at the end of 2020, I wanted to be in a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, which would freeze my payment, because if inflation gets bad enough, I don't want to pay $3,000 a month rent, $4,000 a month rent, $5,000 a month rent. So I sold the collectible coins, got that down payment ready, and bought a house at the very, very end of October of last year. And I started, we had an unfinished basement, and I wanted a completed house. I'm not, a lot of people are like, well, we'll get it done. I'm the guy that I want all of my space as a home, a usable space, not just for storage. So in the early, basically November 1st, I started buying the materials and hiring guys to finish my basement immediately in November. And these are the same months where this guy in Australia talked about the U.S. dollar and U.S. and Australian economics, and he's worried about this bad inflation. So it's following his numbers: 0.1 inflation increase, 0.2 inflation increase, 0.4 inflation increase, and then March was 0.6 inflation increase. Well, I bought my house at the very end of October. I started buying materials to finish the basement. By the time January and February rolled around, and it took 4 months to get this basement done. It took a little longer than I wanted it to, but if I would have started in January or February to buy these materials and start finishing the basement then, it essentially would have doubled the cost of materials. I would have paid $20,000 more to finish a basement. So, yeah, I very rapidly, any big ticket items, microwaves or refrigerators, because I have a kitchenette in that basement, I made sure to get all those things out of the way, because it's just going to get more expensive. Gold and silver is funny. You got the cost of wood doubling. You got copper hitting all-time highs or close to it. Nickel hitting all-time highs or close to it. You have all of these materials used for building and for the economy, for infrastructure, for building things, homes and cars and things that you buy. All these things are going up. And then in the same span, October, November, December, you got gold and silver just sort of flattening out, hanging out. Oh, yeah, you don't want to put your money in this. Well, this is how fraudulent the system is. They can't completely control gold and silver, but they can manipulate with the paper market, sell a whole bunch of paper gold, sell a whole bunch of silver paper, and flatten out the cost, because rhodium at $25,000 and palladium at $2,500. Let me take a look real here. I'll just take a look, because I'll also see what today's numbers are. Because palladium almost $2,600 per ounce. You got rhodium at $25,000 an ounce. You got platinum finally coming back, pushing towards $1,200 an ounce. And gold and silver is just kind of, it's come up the last few days. It looks like it's starting to have another leg here. It's because they don't want people to run to those safe places. They want. Joe just said, what is China doing in this inflative cycle with the dollar? They're doubling, tripling, quadrupling all the gold purchases they can make. They know what's going to happen with gold. They know that it's going to be an important player, whether it becomes a gold-backed currency or not. That it's going to be a very important place to be in when it's this cheap. Who's making gold this cheap for China to scoop it up? And if China is scooping it up, and we know the world economy is moving that way in one form or another, this is why you, the listener of our show, should be buying this, gold and silver. I'm going to talk about gold and silver buyers a little bit with my customers. I've been saying it on the Colorado show, but 800-951-0592. Get your calls in. If they can't answer your phones, leave messages. It doesn't matter what's sitting there to be sold. You better get on board. You have a couple thousand, a couple hundred sitting there. Get your gold and silver at 800-951-0592. I'll be right back. Patriot Trading News Hour. I'm your guest host, Jason, here in Colorado, where it snowed last night, and we had these cold temperatures all week. But that's April for Colorado. We always have a cold snap. But the funny thing is we'll probably get out of this thing over the weekend, and things will probably heat up and look really nice, and probably go for about 2 weeks. This happens every year. Enough sun and warming weather. The springtime looks like it's here. We get through this last bit of snow that we're going to go through today, tomorrow, and Saturday. About 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, people are all getting ready to plan all their fun stuff they're going to go do, and then we get hit again. We always get hit one more time. Everyone's planning that cookout in the backyard because the sun is out, spring is sprung, and it happens every year. And another whack of snow comes in. I would say at the end of the month. Let's just say, like, I'm looking at the calendar. Well, April 30th, that would be perfect. That's a Friday. Everyone's got their plans for the weekend, and then Friday night it just starts snowing on everybody's Saturday and Sunday plans. But that'll probably happen. But Arizona, you guys don't have that problem. You guys are getting ready for that heat, and We have kind of that dry heat that you guys have. People like to come to Colorado and Arizona because you don't have that humidity. But I don't know, 120 degrees and 110. I don't know if I can handle that. So don't mind the mountains. But I was talking about inflation. Joe brought it in, and Joe brought in at the beginning of the show about China scooping up all this gold. And the report he was reading from, I always, everyone's got an angle, everyone, and then there's always false numbers or somebody skewing the numbers, but it was coming from the IMF, and the IMF is talking about how China is doing all this, buying all this gold, and we know that they're buying the most special drawing rights from the IMF, which is a central bank, and it looks ripe for pushing the IMF as a more powerful position in the central banking game. So here we are. The dollar is dying, slow death, fast death. It'll whatever pace they set, it'll happen, and here comes the inflation. And I talked about this guy in Australia. His name is Michael. I don't have all his information for you to go find him, but he's from Australia, and he's talking about this inflation that's coming. And even if it just kind of stayed where it was at and just stayed there for years, and if your income was going up by 2% a year, how that's going to put you backwards very quickly. Well, this brings us to gold and silver, because when things get inflated, gold and silver go up, and gold and silver have not been doing what everything else is doing. It's artificially low. It happens all the time because someone decides to hold physical gold in one hand and put it behind their backs, and then they put paper gold and silver out in front of you, and they get the average person like, well, I don't have to store it. They put this fear into people. Well, what if someone breaks into my house and steals it? Well, the biggest fear should be, what if it's sitting in a paper market and they steal it? That's the most likely thing. There's so many reasons to buy gold and silver. And I've been here for 3 years, and I've been dealing with gold and silver customers longer than that. There's one, I'm going to give you two really good reasons to buy gold, just coming from our customers. And there's tons of reasons to buy gold and silver. It's tangible, with inherent value. There's no counterparty risk, scarcity. It cannot be debased. 5,000 to 6,000 year history, store of value, long-term hedge for inflation. I mean, look at all these reasons to buy gold. 2,500 year track record is money, actual money. It's a safe haven. It's portable and anonymous. Probably one of the major reasons I buy gold and silver is portable and anonymous. You can move it where you need to go. Yeah, it's nice to buy property, but if things are going the wrong way, you can't pick up your property and walk away with it. It's great for emergency money. Universal acceptance across the world. There's no default risk with gold and silver. It can diversify your portfolio of investments, and I count it as savings. I don't count it as investment. I mean, it just the reasons go on and on and on. It's a currency hedge. Gold's metallic properties is a good reason to buy it. It doesn't corrode. It doesn't go away. Physical gold is a tiny fraction versus paper money. It's once again it's that scarcity. But let me give you some other reasons why gold and silver should be sitting in your house somewhere. I don't want to have gold because someone might rob my house. Well, inflation is theft. federal income tax is theft. That money sitting in your bank account, that cash you might have sitting in a shoebox somewhere in your home, is being stolen from you through federal income tax and inflation. So might as well have it in gold and silver. Put it where nobody else knows where it is. It'll be safe. I know people get their houses get burglarized or house fires. There's all that. Life is risk. People like to put themselves in a nice little comfy bubble. And that's what brought us coronavirus, because everyone wants to be in that safe little bubble, and they want everybody else to do what they're doing because they're living in fear. I don't do that. I've got gold and silver. People know I have it. They can look it up, find out where I live, and try to come and get it. But I don't suggest that. Most gold and silver guys have other commodities like lead sitting around, and why would you want to break into a gold and silver guy's house? Not a good idea. But that aside, what are some other reasons? Well, I've been selling gold and silver for over 3 years here at Patriot Trading Group, and I've been doing it longer before Joe took me on as a partner. Never heard this term spoken by a single customer I have ever had. The term is this: I bought too much gold and silver. Never heard it. It's never been spoken to me. Oh, Jason, I bought too much. I got too much gold and silver. I've never heard it. I'm sure there's a reason for somebody that has done it. I mean, if someone's income is very tight and they buy a bunch of gold and silver and then they have to go pay bills and they put their rent money into gold, I guess. But I've always cautioned my customers, don't put your monthly bill paying money into this. Your savings needs to go into this. So I've never heard it. Not one person. Hey, I just bought too much, Jason. Gosh, man, what did I do? The other thing is, I've never heard, or that's really a good reason to buy gold and silver, and I'll cover this on the last segment coming up, especially the old-timers that buy it. They are the most stress-free individuals I've ever met. They're so comfortable. They're so relaxed. Could it be that when they own gold and silver, they don't seem to have the fears of everybody else scrambling around the world trying to figure things out? Patriot Trading News Hour, number is 800-951-0592. Get your gold and silver and get it quick. Be right back for the last segment. Final segment on a Friday, Jack Daniels Friday. I remember that, guys. We have a little bit of that going on here at Colorado. The Colorado Show, we have Fake News Friday. We like to have some fun and try to take the gloom and doom news and just sort of poke fun at it. A little bit of Babylon Bee, and we have our we have people call in. We give away free silver dollars. Now, if you're in Arizona and you go to 1360khnc.com and listen in to Fake News Friday, it'll be 3 o'clock Colorado time. We just ask for funny jokes, funny stories. If you come in with something funny, we're an easy audience. We'll get you free silver dollars, usually a peace dollar. But that's going to be at 3 o'clock. We have Fake News Friday. It's a lot of fun. Joe bought the radio station for a reason. There's opportunity and there's a lot of truth to be found on this station. So, I talked earlier about this Australian guy, Michael. I may just play. He's just fun to listen to. I might just play a couple minutes of him as we get ready to go off the air. But I was talking right as I was leaving the last segment. The most relaxed and stress-free people you're ever going to meet. And I'll tell you right now, the stress level is always how much gold and silver these guys have. I know some of the guys that have a lot, and then I know some guys that have a middle amount, and I know the guys that are trying to get a some, and they're just starting out. And those 3 levels, low, medium, and high ownership of gold and silver, the stress level goes away the more they own. I got these guys, they don't even remember exactly where all their gold and silver is. They got so much of it, and they don't even care. You can just see. They know that if they need it, they'll go find it. It's great. There's too many stresses in life already as it is, and people don't want to think that money is everything. Money isn't everything, but man, it's sure being taken care of when you need your air conditioner breaks, and you're paycheck to paycheck. That's a massive stress. The gold guy, the air conditioner's broken. Call the phone number, get it done. It's that simple. It's all about saving money and saving it where it's safe. We do that. We've been specializing in that for 25 years. I've been here for just over 3 with my partner Brian. Call the number over there in Arizona. Get yourselves lined up with whatever we got. I know we may have a very scant few of the 10th ounce gold. I don't know how many, and we may quite frankly be sold out. On Fake News Friday, I'm going to have a small little silver special that I'll unleash on the show. Don't call for the silver special because it's Colorado. If you're Arizona and want to get in, just listen to the show at 3, and I'll throw it on the air, and you can order some of that stuff. There may be a little bit of a shipping charge if I ship it to Arizona, but that's what we do. So it was good. This is a guy from Australia. I don't know if I got to the right place, but he's talked about the inflation I just talked about a couple segments ago. Let's listen in. His name is Michael.
Deepening. In October, it went up to 0.1%. In November, December, it went up to 0.2%. In January, it went up 0.3%. In February, it went up 0.4%. And now in March, it's going up 0.6% and is accelerating. And if the Fed doesn't do something now, it could get out of control, like in the 80s when we had inflation in the double digits of 10 to 15 to 20%. But they keep saying we can just wait for the perfect time when inflation goes just above our target and then get it under control with a click of a finger. But that's not how economics work. And guess what? Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, he's not an economist. He's a lawyer. And he's also someone that made millions of dollars on Wall Street, which is a big conflict of interest. And this is the official CPI number. So even the official CPI number is higher than expected. And we know they always underreport.
There you go. There's a little bit of some smart individuals. There's a few of us out there that understand what's going on. Call the number once again, 800-951-0592. Always, you can go to 1360khnc.com and listen into some of our fine programming over there. But I'm sure Joel will be back on Monday, and I'll be waiting for your phone calls. 800-951-0592. See ya.